Hi, and welcome to our Tuesday live leadership chats. Today, I am talking to Rev Dr Bill Brown, and today we're actually going to talk about leading in a season that started out as a crucible moment, but has turned into a crucible season. My name is Kylie Butler, and I'm a part of Christian Coaching Institute, which is Australia's leading Christian coaching organisation. And we've been coaching and training leaders in coaching for over 10 years now. So, Bill, welcome. It is so great to have you with us today. Now, before we jump into the topic, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what roles you're fulfilling, and what you've done previously, and also what is it that you love doing?
Okay. Thanks, Kylie. It's great to be with you today. I'm a husband to Julia, a dad to 4 adult kids, and a grandfather to 8. And the roles that I'm currently fulfilling, 1 day a week role at Sindel Baptist. They call me Pastor Emeritus. I'm not sure what that means. And 3 days at the Baptist Union of Victoria, working 2 days with emerging leaders as a pastoral coach, and 1 day with the senior pastors of larger churches in a pastoral coaching role. Prior to the last couple of years, I was the senior pastor at Sindel for around 33 years, and youth pastor before that, a school teacher before that. And in terms of what I love spending time with family and friends. I could play sport 24/7. I love my cricket, still play cricket, and love footy. Run most days, like to get out in the garden, those sorts of things.
That's so good. And what footy team do you go for, Bill?
Well, the Mighty Hawks, they're rebuilding at this stage.
Okay. Very good. So good. So good to have you with us. So a question for you as we start, the start of COVID-19, it just seems like it was such a long time ago. What are you sensing now as you engage with pastors and leaders, and particularly in the role that you're in?
Well, I think successive lockdowns have added to the challenge of coming fresh for leaders and for pastors. There was a bit of this is new last year, and what a great opportunity, but successive lockdowns have taken their toll, I think. And so there's people and leaders are weary, and being on Zoom a lot has been challenging. Families are finding it difficult. How do you continue to relate well to families? So right across the spectrum of pastors and leaders, but right across society, I think there is a weariness, but and to lead well through this season requires a lot of resilience, because not again, and you've got to get up and go.
Yeah. I hear that too with so many leaders. Now, in particular today, we're going to talk around that sense of crucible moments. So tell us about crucible moments. What are they?
Crucible moments are those times or seasons when we're stretched to the limit personally or professionally. And they're testing times, they're often intense and often could be traumatic. But it's also true that they occur sometimes when they're least expected. But they're also great opportunities to test our character, to build our character. They're opportunities to learn and grow. What are some of the things that we can build into our lives to help us when we face these things? They equip us for what is ahead, because there'll be more crucible moments in life. They also provide something to look back on and say, how did we cope then? What can we learn from that? Because we don't learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience.
Yeah. And so although we're in kind of these moments of exhaustion and probably in crucible seasons, what are some of the things that can prepare us for or enable us to be kind of more resilient when they come up again in the future?
Well, I reckon one of the big things is to daily build my picture of God, because if I realise that I'm not alone and there's nothing that will happen to me that takes God by surprise, and there's nothing that can happen to me that God can't work in and through for good. So if I can build my picture of God, then that helps me face whatever comes. And most of our problems come from an inadequate theology, I think. But a second thing is that I'm not meant to do it alone either, not only with God either, but with a community of people. So can I build into personal relationships in a way that breathes life into me? And can I have that done ahead of time? And it's also true that that's particularly important in terms of family, marriage and family. Because if we're not winning at home, we're probably not winning. So that's a really important thing.
Yeah.
And that also builds into a sense of wellness. And I want to maintain a sense of wellness because in difficult times, the drain on my wellness is very significant. And if I'm not inputting into that, not only with relationships, but with having fun, with exercise, with nutrition, with sleep, with all of those sorts of things, even margin in my life, if my wellness reservoir is not continually topped up, I'm in trouble. And I reckon for me too, one of the important things is to develop a mindset that problems or crucibles are opportunities. So what can I learn and grow through this? How can I respond more helpfully? What are the things that I need to be innovating if innovation is change that adds value? And, you know, another thing that I think has been important is to actually develop some grit and determination. A bit old-fashioned, but are there projects that I need to finish? Are there commitments that I'm making, even with exercise, that I need to be true to? And building that determination and grit into my life is actually a really helpful thing.
So how can you build like that determination and grit if you're in the middle of a crucible moment or season? Because we talked around there, things you can do beforehand.
Yeah.
If there's leaders that are listening today that are going, oh, I'm in that, like right now.
Yeah.
Well,
I think some clues for me is to remember whose mission and ministry it is. And if I'm responding to the call of God on my life and to his church, then letting him take some of the responsibility for what goes on is really helpful. And like Hezekiah, I love the story of Hezekiah where he laid it out before the Lord. And so to remember whose ministry it is, that is really an important thing. I think to be clear about vision and mission and values, how do we behave as representatives of Jesus in this sort of time, has been a really important thing for me to keep in mind. But one of the things that a leader can do during these times is communicate. And I reckon communicate early and often and well to leaders and to people.
Yeah.
It's true that in a time of crisis or crucible, we can't always be sure about some things, but we need to provide clarity and an opportunity for two-way communication. And I think it's true that leaders need to be both seen and heard regularly, like premiers and prime ministers in the midst of this pandemic. They might not have much new to say each day, but they're seen and they're heard, and they seek to provide the opportunity for feedback and interaction. So that's really important.
Yeah.
I think it's also true that we need to lead people through this time with care, which means that we need to be empathetic. We might need to adjust the way we do things or even shelve some things for the moment because people are weary and tired, or even build in some things that offer a little more hope, including fun. And we need to focus on the stories where even small wins might be shared. Might seem insignificant, but small wins are really important.
Yeah.
And one of the best questions I've heard around all of this is, so what's the wisest thing to do here? And if I ask the wisest leader what he would do or she would do, what I think they do. And that has to take into consideration that I can't be the only one who leads. If we're part of the body of Christ, there are others who can contribute in a whole range of ways that are really important at times like this. And it's also true that each of us has limits. So we need to make sure that we're looking after ourselves during these days.
Yeah. So you talk around that sense of how do you lead yourself through this? How do you lead the organization? Also, how do you lead others in this? I guess when it's a crucible season, is there any other insights around leading others when you might not be going through a crucible moment, but they are? And how do you lead somebody else who's going through that?
I think it's really important to give everybody the opportunity to share some of their story. And it might mean that our normal style of leading or managing, where we're focused on taking the next hill or getting some results, we might actually have to adjust that so that we take time to sit with people, hear their stories, help them reflect on what's going on for them, and slow down the pace of what we might be doing. That's important for ourselves. We need to take care and be aware of ourselves as well as aware of the needs of others.
That's great. So let's picture that somehow this season is going to finish, right? Surely it will at some point, but all of us have kind of had crucible moments or crucible seasons and they finish. But what does the after looks like? What's helpful after a crucible season?
I reckon after a crucible season, we ought to thank God for his help getting us through it. And we ought to thank one another or others, whoever have been part of it. Thanksgiving ought to overflow from the life of a follower of Jesus, and certainly true of a leader. It's important then to make sure that we take a breather, take a break. It's important that we don't skimp on holidays or days off or those sorts of things. That's important for us and for those that we love and care about. It's also important to just check how people are and is there any damage that needs to be addressed, wounds tended to, bruises supported or soothed, and what can we learn through this? What are the takeaways? Because there will be some more crucible moments. And if we don't learn from reflecting on our experience, we're not going to be ready for them for the next time.
Yeah. I wish that wasn't true, Bill, but I think you're right there. There will be more crucible moments.
Sure.
Any other final words or insights or wisdom that you'd love to share with leaders that are watching this?
I love Paul's encouragement to the Ephesian elders when he said, make sure you take care of yourselves as well as taking care of the flock. And he talks to the Galatians and saying, let's not become weary or tired or fatigued or burned out in doing good. So there's some encouragement there to keep ourselves fueled and aflame. You remember when we used to fly and in the safety instructions, it would say, make sure you fit your mask first so that you can help someone else.
Yeah.
And the best gift we can give to others is to make sure that we're looking after ourselves so that in order to lead and care for others.
Oh, so good. And Bill, I'm going to throw a question that we haven't prepared because you've completed our Coach Mastery certificate. You completed the coaching course that you did with Christian Coaching Institute. Would you recommend that to other people? That's kind of a leading question there, isn't it?
Absolutely. That was one of the most challenging, encouraging, stretching opportunities, both to look at one's self, but also to engage with others and reflect back to them the things that they were seeking to work through. And certainly in my own leadership and my ministry at the moment, being able to be a more helpful coach has been really important. And I confess to you before this interview, I finished a coaching session this morning in a not helpful way, but if I hadn't done Coach Mastery, I might not have known what to do next time. So it's been helpful to reflect.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. Thank you for answering my leading question there. And if anyone who's watching this, if you're interested in developing coaching skills or learning more about coaching, we do have our Coach Mastery cohort. Our next one is starting in September, but we have them rolling throughout the year. So we'll be looking at our 2022 dates really shortly. But Bill, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and insight around not just Crucible moments, but Crucible seasons. And as a leader who has led well in so many different seasons, there's so much that we can glean from your wisdom, from your life, and from the legacy that you continue to leave working with so many Christian leaders. So thank you so much for being with us today. And
Thanks,
been an honor and a privilege. Everybody, look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.